Hello, critical thinkers. Hope all is well. How's everyone doing tonight? For everyone on the chat, if you could just state your name, or rather put your city and state so I know where you're from, that would be awesome. So thank you for coming today. And before I go into the topic, which is, should we shut down Marcy? There are some Robert Brooks updates that I need to go over with you. So, first and foremost, I do want to say that the last few days that I've had a tremendous amount of anxiety, a tremendous amount of anger, a tremendous amount of sadness over what's going to transpire with the next few days. So, for those of you, if you have not heard the news, the unsealing of the indictment has been delayed until Thursday afternoon. So everyone thought that we were going to get the indictments to be unsealed tomorrow. That's not the case. The indictments are going to be unsealed on Thursday. So before we start talking about, Marcy, whether we should shut down Marcy and other New York State correctional facilities, let's go into this new Robert Brooks news in terms of the unsealing of the indictments being pushed to Thursday. So I'm going to share an article with you now. We'll go over it and we'll talk about it. Okay, here we go. So this is from Rochester First. Uh, Let me get rid of this gentleman on the side. So the Onondaga County District Attorney announced Monday, today, that he expects a noteworthy development in the investigation into the beating death of an inmate at Marcy Correctional Facility. So I'm going to stop it there for a quick second, and just go over what is supposed to be meant by a noteworthy development. What does this mean? To be honest with you, I am more on the sinister side. I don't know what this means. I don't know whether they're still buying of time for whichever reason. My instinct said that I did not like what I was reading, what I was hearing, this being delayed until Thursday. Let me know in the comments section what you believe Bill Fitzpatrick is saying by saying there's a noteworthy development. It might be. I'm hoping that someone has turned state's witness, someone agreed to testify. But anyway, let's continue on with the article and let's see what else we learn from today's news. Bill Fitzpatrick, the district attorney for Onondaga County, has been leading the investigation as a special prosecutor assigned to the case. Robert Brooks, an inmate at the Marcy Correctional Facility, was beaten by corrections officers and other prison staff on December 9th, 2024, and died 4 hours later from related injuries. Video footage captured by the uniform-worn cameras on the officer shows the gruesome beating. The 43-year-old died from compression of the neck and multiple blunt force injuries, an autopsy revealed. The medical examiner deemed his death a homicide. Pending the active nature of the investigation and confidentiality of grand jury proceedings, the prosecutor won't describe what the noteworthy development is in advance. So they're being tight-lipped about what this noteworthy development is. I truly hope that some key people have flipped. They've turned state's witness. They've agreed to testify against the primary correctional officers involved in the brutal murder. Let's continue on with the article. The Albany Times Union reports multiple correction officers have been indicted by the Onondaga County grand jury hearing the case and are expected to turn themselves in before Thursday's court action. So this is interesting. So what they're reporting is that these officers are going to turn themselves in before Thursday's court action, whether it means they're turning themselves in tomorrow or Wednesday, but I'm assuming they'll turn themselves in on Thursday to hear the indictment. So what exactly that means, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. It's scheduled for Thursday afternoon in Oneida County Court before Judge Robert Bauer. The DA promises to speak with reporters after the court proceeding. And that's it. That's the end of this article. That's what we know. Let me get rid of that. We there is another article that spoke about 9 correction officers being charged. I don't know whether that's true or not. A couple of sources have reported that it's 9 corrections officers who are being charged. At the moment, again, we don't know what the charges are, but what we do know is that tomorrow we will not hear the indictments won't be unsealed tomorrow. They will be unsealed on Thursday. Just a couple of quick comments here. Hello, everyone from Bridget. Thank you for attending. Justice for Robert Brooks. And we got Jason Scott with the thumbs up and the piece. Thank you so much for joining us, Jason. And for anyone else who just joined us, I just went over some Robert Brooks news that the unsealing of the indictments is not happening tomorrow. It's happening on Thursday. So this is being delayed. So a couple of things that I just wanted to point out about this, and I had a user talk to me, and they made reference to when someone was hanged, they would keep the body up, and they would keep the body on display for days or weeks after the person was murdered, and that was done in a way to continue to victimize their family members and the people around them. And it led me to believe that this sort of feels like, with this taking so long to even get to this point, it feels like they're attempting to victimize us again. So I'm not very happy with this. The number of days, 2 months, no arrest yet. The indictments are going to be unsealed. Donna had a question. I'm curious why the delay. So what I heard from actually another YouTuber who read a different article was that they cited weather. I don't know if that's true or not. But from what the article that we just read, that we went over, it speaks about having a significant development I'm sorry, a noteworthy development in the case. So I don't know what that is. I don't know why it would delay the indictments happening tomorrow. Why kick the can down the road another couple of days? All I know is that on Thursday, when we hear about this, hopefully it's significant. It's something that uh, that made us wait for 2 days, because as of now, it doesn't seem like there's a significant reason why to wait 2 days. Okay. Um, so what I want to jump into now is speaking about Marcy Correctional Facility and other New York State correctional facilities, and whether they should be shut down or not. So okay, we actually, Donna chimed in. She said, could it be due to the distractions over at Collins? Yeah, Donna, I don't know. That's really a good question. I don't see how what's happening at Collins could have an impact on Robert Brooks' case. But actually, if I do think about it, maybe it's about trying to delay bad news, trying to control the narrative in the media, and wanting bad news to come out on different days so that people don't feel bombarded by negative imagery or negative news about docs. It could be that. It could be that. Um, Justice for Mr. Robert Brooks, absolutely. We, we pray for justice. We also take action. We spread the word about what's happening, and we pray for his family that they have comfort. Sharon made a note saying, "I heard Tromley resigned." So if Tromley resigned, that's all fine and dandy. But Tromley is the ringleader. Tromley was in the room when everything was happening, when Mr. Brooks was being murdered. He was orchestrating the correctional officers, telling them to stay out, who comes in. So he obviously needs to be prosecuted. He is as much culpable of this murder as is Anzalone and the other guy, the bald-headed guy. His name slips me, but he's a real piece of work, I have to say. Anthony Farina. Anthony Farina. So Sharon, yeah, if he did resign, so be it. But if he's incarcerated, his resignation doesn't really mean too much to me per se. But that might have something to do with it. It might. It might. Okay. We have Brenda who says they shouldn't be allowed to resign. And actually, Brenda, you bring up a very good point because what I've learned, what I've heard, is that some of these individuals can resign and still collect their pension because they've resigned before they've been terminated. So that seems to be that if you're them, that would be the thing to do to resign so that it may not affect your pension. I don't know how the pension system works for them, but that does happen. Officers are allowed to resign. They resign, they get their pension, and there's no consequences for what they've done. We have a comment from Ann. 2025 time for truth and transparency. More accountability is needed. Yes, prayers to Brooks family. Yeah, it's more transparency absolutely has to be needed. Also what's needed is good leadership. There is no effective leadership. There is no ethical leadership in the New York State Department of Correction and Community Services. That leadership is not there because everyone who's been in senior leadership has known about the abuses, they've known about the murders, and they've ultimately have done nothing about it. They have not. So we have Raquel. My apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. Um, she stated, "No pleas, no pensions for those evil monsters." I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 1,000%. These individuals should not be allowed to get their pensions. And from what I've heard from other news outlets, is that these gentlemen, they are not new to the block. Most of them have been around for 10, 15 years. So they're vested. They're absolutely vested. So let's go into an article from this is from CNY Central. I'm going to share this with you. Give me a second. Okay. So this article, uh, state official calls for Marcy Correctional shutdown following inmate beating death. So this is an article that came out on January 3rd, 2025. It's still worthy to read now because it really holds true to our discussion today. Marcy, New York. Governor Kathy Hochul has until March to decide whether to use special powers to shut down 3 state prisons. Some are calling for Marcy Correctional to be one of them after staff members there viciously assaulted an inmate the day before he died. So, this comment, a lot of articles are saying that he died the next day. We know for a fact that he died that same day of that beating. He died on December 9th. He did not die the next day at a hospital that he was transported to. He died on that day. We see from the footage, uh, the nurses trying to revive Mr. Brooks and the attempt to get a defibrillator. He died. He passed away on December 9th. Continuing on, State Senator Julia Salazar is chair of the Senate's Corrections Committee. She's demanding that Marcy is closed in response to the footage of corrections officers punching, kicking, and otherwise attacking a handcuffed and bloodied Robert Brooks in early December. Body camera footage released showing fatal beating at Marcy Correctional Facility. Marcy Correctional cannot remain open, Salazar said in a statement. The brutal killing of Robert Brooks would be more than enough reason to demand closure of Marcy. This is something that I strongly disagree with. I'm going to continue with the article, but we'll talk about, I'll share my opinion as to why Marcy should not shut down. However, there have been additional previous reports of unconscionable violence against incarcerated individuals by staff at Marcy and other DOCCS facilities. My office has received these reports, and I have urged those with power to investigate these reports to do so. So basically, she's saying that she has urged those individuals with power to investigate and to do something. But a question for everyone in the chat now, and be honest, is there something that she could have done now? Just out of curiosity, is there something that she could have done now in her position of power? Feel free to let me know. It's unclear if Marcy was on the chopping block before Brooks' death, which put a national spotlight on the prison located just outside Utica. Under the terms of the state budget covering the current fiscal year, Governor Hochul gained the authority to close 5 prisons. She used those powers to shut down 2 maximum security facilities in November. Over the past 20 years, around 24 facilities have been shut down thanks to a steady and significant drop in the state's prison population, rendering certain prisons unnecessary. Chris Gilardi, an investigative reporter with publication New York Focus, noted that Marcy doesn't necessarily fit the criteria for a dwindling inmate population. According to the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, DOCCS, 835 people are currently incarcerated at Marcy. There are 455 full-time staff. The prison serves a somewhat unique function as a regional mental health facility for inmates. Gilardi also notes that Marcy is a medium security prison, which is rarer than other types of facilities in New York. Marcy Correction officers involved in pattern of abuse and violence. Gilardi said it's mostly speculation on his part, but he believes Governor Hochul's actions so far in the wake of Brooks' death indicate that the goal, at least for now, is to attempt to salvage Marcy and improve conditions instead of shutting it down. Quote, I do think the fact that she brought in a new superintendent and is pushing for a lot of reforms department-wide, but also within Marcy, I think that may possibly be pointing to Marcy is not one of the prisons that she wants to close soon, Gilardi said. Still, he pointed out that officials also consider violence and the overall health of operations at a prison when deciding to keep it open. Well, before corrections officers and others were caught on camera attacking Brooks, there has been evidence of abuse inside Marcy. And the next paragraph speaks about the Correctional Association of New York. In 2022, inspectors with the Correctional Association of New York arrived at Marcy for a routine visit. They found that Marcy was on the extreme end of the spectrum, according to Executive Director Jennifer Scaife. So, Daniel Monticello III was recently questioned about, the abuses, and a reporter asked him about the Correctional Association's report, and his response was, "I'm going to be paraphrasing, so don't jump down my neck because I get it wrong. I'm paraphrasing. He said that there wasn't anything actionable in terms of specific names of people, right? So that was one of the responses he gave in reference to the 2022 Correctional Association report. In addition to that, the powers that be, New York State Attorney General Letitia James, Governor Kathy Hochul, Daniel Monticello III, they all knew about the abuses because of civil cases. There's been countless civil cases with inmates alleging abuse and even death. There's been deaths. So I'll continue on with the article very quick. Oh, hold on. I actually want to take a couple of comments from people um, real quick. Bridget says, my condolences goes out to Robert Brooks' family, and my heart goes out as well to Robert Brooks and his family. I hope they pay for what they did to Robert Brooks. Absolutely. Another comment from Ann. Thank you, sir, for exposing. I live in MA, and we have a case involving a MSP trooper graduate beaten Enrique Del Garcia. Still waiting for investigation and answers. And I see, Ann, you have the icon. The icon is the wrong word, but you Free Karen Reed. That's also another very interesting case. If people aren't following that, they should. She's being retried very soon. Sharon, he died in the infirmary at Marcy. That's correct. Julius Robinson says, shut them all down, and then what? So I agree with that. We have Ann saying, yes, agree. Mr. Brooks was still alive until the cowards brought him in the corner of the room. Okay. I'm going to jump back to the article now. Watchdog report warned of problems in Marcy Correctional before Robert Brooks died. Quote, Marcy does stand out among its similarly situated peers in the state, Scaife said. The nonprofit Watchdog found that about 80% of inmates they spoke to reported either being victims of or witnessing verbal, physical, or sexual abuse. 67% reported being victims of racial abuse. Multiple inmates described a culture of violence under Marcy correction officers. In one instance, an inmate said that officers would, quote, brag and intimidate us about the number of people they beat or sprayed. Sumit Sharma was part of the CANY team that visited Marcy in 2022. He said that it's possible Marcy needs to be shut down if it's determined that the culture of abuse is not capable of being corrected. He noted that while Marcy is an outlier in terms of the number of allegations, the types of allegations are not unique, found throughout the state system. Now, for everyone here now, stick around because maybe within the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to play a video for you that came from the Duty Ron show, in which you have the head of the freelance news, JB Nicholas, and you have a YouTuber by the name of Conservative Felon talk about Marcy. And it's very interesting the comments that they both make in reference to Marcy. So stick around. I'm going to play that in a couple minutes. Going back to the article, we're hearing these large concerns from incarcerated people about being safe in the prison, Sharma said. Local municipalities have pushed back against the possibility of prison closing for economic reasons, and Oneida County Executive Anthony Picenti has similar reservations when it comes to Marcy. He said that it's clear that the prison needs serious attention, but questions whether shutting down the facility entirely is the correct response. Let's go to some comments. Having new administrative staff, more prison advocates, and body cams should be worn at all times on shift. Yeah, absolutely. And also there needs to be accountability, and people need to be wearing their body cams, and if they don't, they need to be held accountable. But another problem that we see that we've continued hearing is the collective bargaining agreement with NYSCOBA, in which it's virtually impossible to terminate corrections officers who beat inmates. So for them not to wear their body cams, I can't think of what the consequences will be. They'll probably be a good talking to, quote unquote. So um, and it says yes, there's two. Donna says I listen to Duty Ron and Conservative Felon as well. Some really good sources with them. Absolutely, those two guys are really good. For those of you who don't know, Duty Ron was he's a retired NYPD detective and conservative felon. He's a gentleman who served, I believe it was 13 years in upstate prisons. He has a lot of great stories to tell. In the description of this live stream, I'm going to be posting their information, so feel free to go to their channels. Bridget says, honestly, I cried when I viewed the video, and it's been hard for me to sleep every night, feeling the pain that Robert Brooks was going through, and I can't unsee. I think that's the sentiment a lot of us have as well. We can't unsee what occurred. We can't unsee the brutality. It's hard to wipe that away from your memory bank, and absolutely horrible. So we have Scotty says, is it possible these correction officers were part of some sort of gang or white supremacist group? To me, it was nothing more than a lynching. Makes me sick to my stomach. So yeah, it might be possible they were part of a gang or white supremacist group. I don't know. I haven't seen any evidence of that. But anything's possible. Who knows? Maybe when, if there's a trial and they start digging into his background and his social media and his phone gets subpoenaed, maybe they'll find evidence that it was racially motivated. I don't know, but the thing that I can tell you from my research, Scott, Scotty, is that also there's Caucasian individuals who have been beaten, who have been murdered at New York State DOCCS facilities as well. So I think unfortunately they're an equal opportunity murderer or beater, so to speak. Donna says, I think that training and social work at minimum, as well as some psychological assessments periodically. I agree with you 100%. I think actually it may have been Duty Ron on his live stream the other night. I could be wrong. Made reference to increasing the standards or the basic requirements, like requiring a bachelor's degree or some sort of training. So some sort of social service training, de-escalation. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I would hope now that there are some sort of psychological assessments happening during the hiring process. I hope that that's occurring. So, um, one thing I want to do out of fun is I like reading the comment section in these articles. So I'm gonna read some of the comments that came out, and feel free to tell me what you think. So we have the first comment here. The whole system needs a relook. I think given the nature of these incidents that are happening, not just in Marcy, Pacenti said. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Let's read. Let's read. Oh, I jumped ahead. Hold on. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. We have a comment that says over the past 20 years, around 24 facilities have been shut down thanks to a steady and significant drop in the state's prison population. The population drop isn't because there's less crime, it's because there's less punishment under our democratic regime. Uh, Navy Vet 65 wrote, "My thought exactly. In lieu of closing prisons, build more and start using them instead of coddling criminals and just slapping their hand and telling them, now be good and don't do that again. Dems always seem to use all that touchy-feely stuff instead of plain simple logic." Let's see what someone else has to say. Governor Kathy Hochul has until March to decide whether to use special powers to shut down 3 state prisons. And in her case, it starts with a large cauldron, eye of newt, and toe of frog. That's probably a stab at her. Another comment, some of these politicians would not want no prisons at all. Just keep the criminals out on the streets. Another comment, this is straight out of the Soros handbook. Stop prosecution of felonies to drop prison populations, close prisons, and take those savings to fund more misguided social welfare programs that do nothing but perpetrate the bigotry of low expectations of minority communities. The cycle continues so low. Carlina wrote, "Where are the mugshots of the guards, the registered nurse, warden, or person in charge? No charges." Yeah, they haven't been charged yet. So hopefully Thursday that will change. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop reading these comments and jump out of that. Donna says, the Stanford prison experiment should be a valuable tool in reform prison environments. Yep, absolutely. Donna also says, Hulsham and James need to go. Donna, I agree with you 1,000%. I am not a big fan of the New York State Attorney General for other reasons, but when this happened with Robert Brooks and the way this was handled inappropriately from her office from the start, it really turned me off to her. Okay. So one thing I want to do now is show a video, but just an FYI, I'm going to be pasting the link if anybody wants to come on and chat with me and share your thoughts. So I'm going to put that in the chat now. Let me copy this. Okay. Before I get to anyone, the thing I'm going to do first is play a video from Duty Ron and a conversation between conservative felon and JB Nicholas. And then I'm going to give you my quick feedback on why I think these prisons should not shut down. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video. Give me 1 second.
You?
Okay. Okay, here we go.
JB, over to you.
There was something about this particular prison, though. There's an extraordinarily toxic environment in the prison.
Yes.
Who I've been speaking with and the records that I've been reading. I've been covering this story now for almost 6 weeks. I've spoken with former prisoners. I've spoken with former COs. I've spoken with the survivors of former COs, you know. These guys, a lot of these guys on this list that we're talking about, you know, have been served at that prison for 10 years or more. So these guys were a tight-knit crew. They had each other's backs, unquestionably. You know, their cover-up machine with the assistance of the nurses, okay, some of the nurses, was a well-oiled cover-up machine, okay? But you know, the signs were there in the injuries that supervision in Albany and Letitia James' office from the lawsuits should have known that these guys were way over the line,
Yeah, JB, I arrived across the street in Mid-State Correctional Facility in 2007. It is directly across the street. You could see the prison. And we all knew in Mid-State that we didn't want to go across the street to Marcy. They had that reputation in 2007. And so we're talking almost 20 years ago,
That's
18
what
years
I'm
ago.
talking about.
All
That's
the prisoners,
exactly what I'm talking
all the prisoners knew in Mid-State, you don't want to go across the street to Marcy because they will beat the shit out of you. So we knew that. Mid-State was pretty bad itself too, I got to be honest. But we all knew Marcy was a lot worse. So it's finally caught up to them. That's what happened. It took this many years, but it finally came to light. You know, what happens in darkness comes to light. You know, so it took a long time. It took them killing Robert Brooks. That's what's unfortunate. It took the camera. Because if it wasn't for the camera, then they'd still be going. Status quo would still be going. So it took the camera.
Okay. Any thoughts about that clip? I thought that was a great clip. I had to reach out to Duty Ron and ask him permission to use that clip. Because one thing that JB Nicholas, by the way, he's been boots on the ground investigating the Robert Brooks homicide from day one. And he's not just behind the computer. He's out there pounding on doors, asking questions, calling people up, tracking down correction officers. So he's the real deal investigative journalist. So, and a lot of my material that I use on for my YouTube videos come from him. So JB, if you're listening, thank you for the work that you do. I have to just give you a shout out and mention that because the work you've done is truly extraordinary. So the thing I want to do now is like to give you my thoughts in terms of why. Oh, we have a comment here from Donna. Donna says maybe invite conservative felons sometime to join. Yeah, I would love for him to come on and join and for us to get some knowledge from him because he has a lot of experience in the system and has some good insights um, in terms of inmate officer relations, and he's also a great storyteller. So yeah, possibly in the future. And by the way, if he's listening, conservative felon, you have an open invitation to do whatever you want to come on, and would love to have a conversation with you. So why? Okay, so I'm gonna say some things about why we should not shut down Marcy and other New York State DOCCS facilities. Okay, so first and foremost, the number one reason why I believe we should not be shutting it down. For me, when people say shut down Marcy, shut down these facilities, for me, it seems more like virtue signaling than actually wanting to solve a problem or wanting to eradicate a cancer. I'm seeing a lot of these elected officials. I see a lot of these, um, community activists, a small handful of them, right? Talk about shutting down these facilities. Unfortunately, and I think another user mentioned that before, shutting down these facilities does not take away the cancer. It does not take away the cancer because if you shut down a facility, you have to transfer inmates to another facility. You also have correctional staff that have to be transferred to another facility. So all of the bad habits, all of the culture of corruption, it doesn't die. It doesn't die because you shut down a physical building. That culture of corruption, it lives. And in fact, that culture of corruption might spread more like a cancer because now you're moving people to different facilities and different leadership, different sergeants, so to speak. Okay. What you have to do is tackle it um, from the top down. There's a saying that goes, "The fish stinks from the head down." Right? Whenever you have these sort of institutional problems, it's because the leadership at the top is bad and has failed to correct it. it has failed to correct these problems. So shutting down Marcy is not going to help. Shutting down Marcy is not going to get rid of these correctional officers. They'll be transferred to another facility where they will be abusive to other inmates at a different facility. So there are bigger problems. So my opinion is, don't shut down these facilities. Get rid of the leadership. My opinion is that Daniel Marchesolo III should resign immediately from his position. I don't think people have confidence in him. I don't. He's known about these abuses, and he's done nothing. He's done nothing about them. So that's my stance in terms of why Marcy should not be shut down, and why these correctional facilities should not be shut down. So we have a comment from Kevin. But have we ever had this happen before, or has this just been hidden for so long? I'm not sure what you're making reference to. I'm missing the context. Is that shutting down a facility, or the Robert Brooks homicide? All right, Kevin, if you're able to chime back in and let me know. No, I'm sorry, guys. Give me 30 seconds. I got some alarm going off in the back. Hold on. Okay. My apologies for that. We have a comment from Anne that says JB is covering what MSM hardly covers. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, mainstream media is not continuing to cover the story. You might hear, like initially they covered it, they showed part of the video, and then after that, there is no follow-up. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves with a lot of media outlets, is that there really is no follow-up to a lot of these stories. So Kevin chimed back in and said the Robert Brooks homicide. Have we seen this happen before? Not on 4D, TV, right? But there are other deaths. I've done a couple other videos. So yeah, no, there have been deaths. There have been beatings. Unfortunately, because it's a prison population, people don't care. So actually, tomorrow I'm doing a live stream about abuses in women's prisons. I'm going over abuses in Albion Correctional Facility, and I'll be going over some legal paperwork from a civil case that's occurring now, that's in the discovery phase. So women also suffer too. In my channel, I haven't spoken too much. There hasn't been a lot of stories about women prisoners, but I want to begin discussing females in correctional facilities and the abuses that happen, there. Okay. All right. So listen, if anybody wants to come on and chat, there's 20 people here. If anyone disagrees with me, by all means, I would love to hear from you. Come on, chat with me, or if you want to share your thoughts about the Robert Brooks homicide, Robert Brooks murder. There'll be two people having a conversation. The only thing I will say is that if you come on, you have to be able to cam up, show your face on camera, no music in the background. I don't want to get any sort of copyright strikes with YouTube for playing music. Oh, we have a comment. May I share this to my Facebook newsfeed and MA here? Absolutely, 1,000%. Feel free to share it. That's greatly appreciated. Likes and shares don't cost you anything. So by all means, feel free to like this stream and share it with others, because we definitely need to get this story out. Okay, so we have Kevin. Kevin, I'm going to pull you up. I'm going to add you to the stage. Kevin, can you hear
Hey,
me?
how's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm trying to keep the balance here with the mic and my speaker. So
Yeah, no, you sound fine. I think if people have a problem, they'll put something in the chat. But so far, you sound fine.
okay.
So
So
talk to me.
this was interesting. Seeing this thing pop up, uh, I heard about it probably about 2 weeks after it happened. The day that the DA decided to hand off the video, and I was so shaken by it. It reminded me of George Floyd. I'm sure a lot of people, it still reminds me of George Floyd. And I think I commented before that doing my DNA history, there was
Mm.
Miles Harrelson back in 1919 that was hung, and it was in the newspaper, right? That is what they did back then. And so this seems like that kind of situation. At least those people that are in authority seem to be behaving like not a big deal.
Yeah. So I'm very curious, Kevin. Why do you think it's taken this long to even potentially get this indictment? So it was supposed to happen tomorrow. Now it's going to be unsealed on
You,
Thursday.
you don't want to
It's been
hear
more than 2 months.
conspiracy theory. um, Sorry, I believe it or not, I have this amazing echo. It's about a second and a half long from
Okay.
what I hear when you're talking.
Okay. No problem. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure if you heard my question. So basically, I was asking why why do you think it's taken this long to
Mm.
even get these indictments? Because typically, I know for a fact if you, Kevin, or me
Oh.
killed somebody on camera, we would not even be able to get home in time.
True,
We would be in
true.
cuffs.
They would
So
they
why
would
do
have
you
stopped
think?
us long.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had Christmas, New Year's, uh, Valentine's Day. I wouldn't have any of these times with my family as these correctional officers. I use that word loosely. When you're able to put on a badge or make a pledge to something like this and still wantonly beat someone up. We're not even talking about murder, but just beating someone up. If I am mistaken, they're supposed to protect me from myself, from society. No one said that they were going, no one said that I had to be protected from them, from COs that I see every day coming through. Now, I've never been in jail, so I don't have that experience. That's why listening to Duty Ron and having some of these amazing people that have gotten out, that have spent a lot of time. But my theory is that this is something, I'm a man of process. It's most of what I do is process. And so in order for this to have maintained, right, on March the 9th, it'll be 90 days. In order for this kind of situation to be blocked, we have the media that's working for it. We have the local government. We have obviously the correctional facilities. We have people, I know that I've written letters to my congressperson saying, what's going on? This is wanton. which is why I then said this is like a lynching. This is the purpose for a lynching is to cause fear in the people, to keep them from behaving a certain way. And I think you mentioned earlier in a video that you believe this is kind of what's going on. So why is this happening? I think there's something deeper. Right now, I said the thought experiment I had is that what if we actually were in a war zone and we were in captivity? All of this makes sense. If I was a prisoner of war, not even in a jail, but if I was in a prisoner of war and I got captured and put in jail, I could expect these kind of things to happen. But I wouldn't expect to have survived it. But that's not supposed to be America.
Yeah, but also, Kevin, even with prisoners of war, there's supposed to be, I'm trying to find the right word, but like a code of conduct for handling prisoners, right? There's something called the Geneva Convention that dictates how you handle prisoners of war.
When you choose to recognize it, yes.
Yes, yeah, and this would not, fly under that, right?
So I believe that, so if we were to follow the dead bodies, if, JB has done an amazing job with his recording for freelance, if we follow, the body bags, if we follow the money, and if we follow anybody who would have to have signed off on this, or ignore it. There's a chain of command happening here. Nobody mentions that. Nobody mentions, right? They go, those officers that were there, there were even some other, sergeants, or I think one of them was recognized as sort of the head of the beatdown squad.
Trombley.
But they answer to someone. Where are they? I mean, we don't hear their name. Something I learned when I was young and I was learning things in scripture is when they brought the woman before Christ to say, she's an adulteress, she should be stoned. He said something very simple. Where's the other one? There's only one person here. There takes two to create that. But that's not what he said. He says, who are you without sin? Cast the first stone. And so from the older to the younger, they dropped their stones and they walked away. What's happening here is something, I think it's systemic, it's deep, it's happened for so long that people feel the inability to worry about what's going to happen to them. If I thought I was going to go to jail, behaviors would change. And I think that's a lot of what's happening.
Yeah, because you see the callousness of these guys, like they've done this before. And we know for a fact that Trombley and Angelone, they've been named in civil lawsuits. They've beaten men before. So there's evidence of that. There's civil cases that go back. So they've been allowed to do this, and it's been institutionalized. Beating prisoners, it's like, going to have a cup of coffee and no one cares.
And what's this with Letitia James? So a question that I have also, nobody has really kind of uncovered it, is why did those cameras come on? They haven't before, or they've been suppressed before. Why did the cameras come on? When did someone say, ooh, I want to turn this on? Either as a joke or someone saying somebody has to see what's going on. Where can we find that person or that group that says, oh no, every time somebody moves with that camera, we're going to have it come on? So I don't know where and when did the policy change? Has it always been there? Was this a year, 2 years, 5 years? Do we have more video without audio that we can go back and archive, or has somebody destroyed that stuff?
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, we still don't know. We still don't have a lot of answers to questions. In terms of what happened to Mr. Brooks prior to being transferred. There was testimony that was given that he had an altercation with an inmate at Mohawk Correctional. We do know that, but there's still a lot of stuff, a lot of answers that we don't have. Like, for example, when the last image of the body worn camera occurs, there's about 3 to 4, I believe, I'm sorry, there's about 3 to 6 hours, quote unquote, in which he was pronounced dead, right? So what happened? What happened afterward? I think that's where the cover up begins. That's where you see people scrambling and scraping, trying to figure out what to do, what to write.
Aunt even said, because she's an EMT, that you have to, by law, if somebody's in that state, you have to call 911, and they didn't.
Yeah, no, it stinks from high heaven. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, every protocol was broken. Reckless lawlessness at its finest. And what people are saying is that those cameras that went on, it was inadvertent. Like, they did not know those cameers were on that standby
obvious.
mode.
That's obvious. Would you do that on camera, knowing what could happen? Right? Who in this audience, the 20 folks that are here, would do something like they did, knowing that the camera was on? And imagine what we would hear if the audio was on. There's one point in what's his name, JB, I forget his last name, in his video.
Nick Nicholas.
Yes, thank you. In his video where they show Robert Brooks being held against the wall in the corner there. It's at that point I had this I watched too many movies. I was watching what is the one with the witch, wish I could remember it. It's the something witch, where at the very end they just show this girl standing in the corner with the head kind of tilted down. She was kind of floating.
Yeah.
That was the very first thing that came to my when I saw this image is, oh, that person's dead. They're not even alive. And that was in that video. That was before they put him back on that table and then allowed the EMT or the person to come in and had to do what do you call that? Where they have to start the heart.
Defibrillation.
Yes,
the defibrillators.
I can't even say it. The defibrillation unit. They tried getting, and then the cameras cut, or at least the footage that he showed on that cut at that point. And I thought to myself, there was nothing. There was nothing coming from this gentleman. Now, I know people have tried to point to his crime, but he was paying for his crime. He'd been in for what, 7 years? He only had 4, 5 more years to go, something like that. And I got the feeling after listening to everything that you've done, and by the way, thank you. It's been an amazing job. Everything, duty runs, stuff with freelance. I've not found a lot of it. I believe that the algorithm is actually shadow banning, blocking. It's not allowing. I put out a video on it, and I got, I don't know, maybe 5 views, 7 views, something like that. So it's one of those things that the media is blocking, Google or YouTube is blocking. You only hear it in social media for folks like you and those of us that are keeping it alive. I'm just waiting for that match to light. Tomorrow you're gonna read the report, the grand jury report, and let's see what happens.
Yeah. No, I think basically when we opened up, I mentioned that this is giving me a whole lot of anxiety and stress and anger, right? Because I'm just afraid that they'll undercharge these gentlemen, you know.
if they charge
Um,
them at all. Because what we've seen from the beginning of the time we heard to now is lots of excuses, lots of obfuscation of
mhm.
usually, I mean, maybe I watch too many movies or watch too many TV shows. This smacks of something that is being hidden, something they don't want you to see.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree 1,000%. Is there anything else you want to chime in with? Anything else on your mind, Kevin?
No,
You want
nothing
to
at all.
share?
Thank you very much. That's really it. Thank you for keeping this thing alive. Um, you know, for the big thing for every ear that hears this, either now live or later after this is broadcast, um, tell one person, tell 5 people, and
Yeah.
just like I did with my wife. I said, "Have you ever heard of Robert Brooks and what happened to him?" And let them go out and search. Let them come back to you and share it. Keep it alive at a time. That that's really all I have to say. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Kevin. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being a part of this community. I appreciate it, and
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right, you take care. Well, I'll be
Okay.
listening.
Okay. Awesome. We'll do. We'll do. Bye bye. Okay. Um, we got more comments. We have Bridget. I also think they're withholding everything that had happened to Robert Brooks from his autopsy. Possible. It's possible. Very possible. Wesley Robinson wrote, "Rest in peace to Bruce Neal, aka Biz, from Newcastle, Westbury, LI, killed in Warkill Correctional Facility in the early 2000s by correctional officers, but said it was suicide." Ah, I'm so sorry to hear that. So sorry to hear that. Also throughout the next few weeks, months, I am going to be covering other cases that people have not even heard of. The more research you do, the more corruption that you uncover, and the more people that have been victimized by correctional officers in the system. It's too many. It's too many names. Too many. Okay, Ann wrote, exactly, Kevin. Corruption hates exposure. That is very true. So, very, very true. I'm going to put the link in one more time. If there's anybody else that wants to come on and, uh, share their thoughts on what's happening with Robert Brooks, on whether you believe that Marcy Correctional should be shut down, feel free to let me know. As I mentioned before, I think Marcy Correctional should remain open. These other institutions should stay open, that we have to focus on weeding out this culture of corruption, this poor leadership. The corruption is evil. The culture is evil. So all that has to be weeded out. Okay. I'll give it another 5 seconds. If nobody else comes on, we'll probably wrap up for the night. So a quick thing, tomorrow night, I'm doing a live stream on abuses in Albion Correctional Facility. A lot of my videos have focused on men, on male prisoners. I'm going to be focusing on female prisoners and the abuses that have occurred. I'll be going over a current civil case that's occurring. That very once you hear these details, it's going to break your heart. It's going to break your heart. Okay, I'll give it 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So everyone who joined, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you. To help get the story out, to help with the algorithm, please like the video, share the video with other people. The more people that know about what's occurring with Robert Brooks, the higher the probability of getting justice. We have to continue putting pressure to get this story out there. Okay. So for everyone, thank you for being on. If you are not live, thank you for viewing. God bless. Take care. And I will see you next time. Peace.